Okay, let's talk about groundwater pollution. So where can pollution come from? So basically anything that can be spilled onto the surface of the earth can eventually percolate its way through the ground and get into the groundwater. So one place for pollution would be agriculture. So in the process of growing food and stuff like that, we put a lot of fertilizers on the ground. We also put a lot of pesticides on the ground. And both of those, both fertilizers and pesticides, can be dangerous if they're in high enough concentrations. So runoff from agriculture can get into groundwater. Okay, then you've got septic tanks on houses produce sewage, and normally if a septic tank is designed well, then that sewage is going to be captured and it's going to be broken down by bacteria before it can get into groundwater. But sometimes septic tanks do leak. Then you've got industrialized sewage systems where wastewater from entire cities is decontaminated, and sometimes that can get into groundwater. Okay, then you can also have industry. So places that manufacture things tend to use chemicals, and sometimes those chemicals can get spilled, or they're not contained, and then they can get into the groundwater. So there's just lots of places where pollution can come from. So how are some ways that pollution can, let's say, get sucked up into your well system? So in this first example, we have the surface of the ground is over here, and then you'll notice that there is a impermeable layer of clay or something like that, and then underneath that is more limestone, so that down here you have an aquifer. And then above this you have another aquifer. So there is more limestone up here, and then underneath it is this clay layer, which is impermeable, and then underneath it is another aquifer. And so in the picture there, it shows what can happen if you have a house over here that has a septic system, and then that septic tank somehow gets broken, so that the sewage material is going to come out of the septic tank, and then it's going to come down until it reaches this impermeable layer. So then the sewage can't go down any further, and so it's just going to go down the hill here, and then eventually it's going to get sucked up by this well that is going to be feeding this house over here. So that would be one way in which sewage can get into the groundwater and then be sucked up somebody else's well. Okay, and another example is the one that's underneath it. So here's the surface of the earth. Underneath it is, again, an aquifer, but it's above the water table. So this area right here is dry, and then the water table is here, and then underneath the water table is, here's again more porous and permeable materials that are under the water, and so this is full of groundwater down here, but this part up here is dry. So let's say that you've got a person that is they drilled their well down into the wet part of the aquifer, so they're getting their water from this part here. And then you'll notice that in the picture there, again, you've got another house over here that has a septic tank, and then that septic tank has ruptured, and so it's got stuff that's going down in this region. Now, as long as the sewage is over here and it's in the dry part, you're okay. But if it continues to go down, eventually it's going to go below the water table. It's then going to let's say that the natural flow of the groundwater is in this direction. So that sewage is going to go this way, and then it's going to be sucked up the well. Another example of this would be if you, this time we've got our surface of the earth. You have a house over here. It has, again, a septic tank that is leaking. And here is the water table down here. The septic tank is leaking, and so it's getting into the water table. But let's say that the natural flow of the groundwater is in this direction. So then that would mean that the sewage would go that way. And then if you had a well that was dug over here, and let's say that that well goes down into the ground, it's okay because the sewage is going this way, and your water is going to be going, clean water will still be going into the house. But in the picture that's off there to the right, what has happened is they decided to water this field over here, and so they put in a gigantic well system that's going to start to draw water out of the water table. And so you can see that the shape of the water table has changed as a result of this. And so now, instead of the water flowing in this direction in the groundwater, the water is now flowing this way, and it can, this sewage that used to be going this way, the sewage can now go this way, and it can be sucked up this well, and it can also be sucked up this well, which is going into this house here. So again, it can be a dangerous situation when you go about altering the topography of the water table. All right, so that's it for this lesson. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have a quiz over this material.